A loud crack filled the small street as the teenage boy's arm broke at the elbow. He screamed in pain and fell to the ground, holding his hurt arm. A big, scary man with a black belt stood over him, smiling like he didn't care. "This is what happens when you say no," the man said loudly so everyone could hear. "Anyone else feel brave today?" The boy was just 17, thin but very brave. He refused to pay money to the bad man. He had no dad, no one to help him, just a tiny shop and a heart stronger than most adults. He said no, and now he was hurt. The bad man wasn't just any bully. He was a trained fighter who liked hurting people. He wore a black belt around his waist like a trophy. No one moved. People on the street froze. Shopkeepers and customers started. Some held their phones, shaking as they recorded. But no one dared to help. Except for one man. Jason Statham was standing nearby, watching. He wore a dark cap and jacket, looking like a regular person. But when he saw the boy on the ground, Jason's hands clenched into fists. His breathing got heavy. He had seen men like this before. He knew exactly what was coming next, and he wasn't going to let it happen. Then the bad man kicked the boy again, hard, hitting his ribs. Before Jason could think, his body moved. He stepped off the sidewalk, walking toward the scene. His steps were slow and steady. People held their breath as he approached. Even those who didn't know who he was could feel that something big was about to happen. The bad man turned to him, confused. "You want some too, old man?" Jason didn't answer. He stopped beside the boy, eyes locked on the thug. Without a word, he took off his jacket and let it fall to the ground. The quiet that followed was so deep, it felt like the whole street had stopped breathing. Everything went silent. The people watching held their breath. Even the thug looked a little nervous. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss Jason Statham's big fight with the black belt thug. And tell us where you're watching from. The street was full of life. Shops lined the narrow road. People were selling fruits, playing cards, and talking loudly. It was a tough place, but people cared for each other. Everyone knew everyone's name. If you helped someone today, they would help you tomorrow. But there was also fear in the air. Some people walked fast, looking over their shoulders. Shops closed early. When a certain man walked by, people stopped talking. They never said his name, but they all knew who he was. He moved through the streets like a storm. Big and strong, covered in tattoos, he wore a sleeveless martial arts uniform like a street outfit. He walked like a man who had never lost a fight, and he enjoyed hurting people. People feared his fists and hated his pride. He ran a fake security business, taking money from shopkeepers. If they didn't pay, he hurt them. Once, he had been a talented fighter in a real dojo. But he chose a different path, one where he used his skills to make people afraid. Every week he collected his money. Small shops, fruit stands, pharmacies. If someone was making money, he wanted a piece of it. He usually never had to ask twice. Until today. The shop was small, with dusty shelves filled with canned food and cleaning supplies. Behind the counter stood a teenage boy, skinny with dark hair. His name was Ion. 2 years ago, his parents had died in a truck accident. Since then, he had run the family store all by himself. He never asked for help. He worked hard every day and earned every coin. People respected him. They wished he had better luck. Today his luck had run out. He had refused to pay. He was polite but firm. "My father never paid," he said. "And neither will I." Those words sealed his fate. Across the street, Jason Statham leaned against a wall, watching. His hoodie was zipped up and his cap was pulled low. He looked like any other person, but his sharp eyes took in everything. The tension, the fear, the danger. Then the thug walked toward Ion's shop. Jason's body changed slightly. His arms dropped to his sides. His jaw tightened. He had seen men like this before. He knew trouble was coming. The thug entered the shop like he owned it. He looked around, pretending to be interested. He tapped on the dusty counter, scanning the shelves. Then he spoke in a fake friendly voice. "Where's my money, little man?" Ion stood tall. His face was tense, but he didn't back down. "I already told you last time. My father never paid, and I'm not starting now." The thug chuckled like he understood. Then he leaned in, his smile turning cold. "Yeah, your father was a proud man. Look where that got him, 6 feet under and broke." Ion flinched but didn't say anything. The thug looked at the small tip jar on the counter. He picked it up and shook it. Coins rattled inside. "This all you made today? That's sad, bro, real sad." He shook his head, clicking his tongue. "What are you gonna do when someone smashes your window? Who are you gonna call? The cops?" Ion's voice was quiet but firm. "I'll handle it myself." Wrong answer. The thug dropped the jar. Coins scattered everywhere. He stepped around the counter and stood inches from Ion. You're either really brave or really stupid. Ion stood his ground, shoulders straight, but his hands trembled slightly. I'm not giving you anything. The shop is all I have. I won't let you take it. For a moment there was silence. A small flicker of hope. Then the thug's hand moved. Smack. A hard slap echoed through the shop. Ion stumbled back, crashing into the shelves. Jars fell to the floor, one shattering loudly. Before he could recover, the thug grabbed his collar and threw him forward. Ion hit the ground with a painful thud. He tried to get up, but the thug dropped his knee on one's shoulder. Crack. The terrible sound filled the shop. Ion screamed. His arm twisted the wrong way. His elbow was out of place. His bones shifted. He gasped for breath, curling up in pain. As Ion lay on the ground, whimpering, the thug sneered. See, this is what happens when you don't listen. He turned back toward the counter, reaching for whatever money was left in the register. But before he could grab a single coin, a shadow loomed over him. Jason Statham stood there, his eyes cold as ice. He didn't say a word. He just cracked his knuckles. The thug turned around slowly, his smile fading. He had fought many battles before, but something about the way Jason looked at him made his stomach tighten. He took a step back. Jason stepped forward. The crowd outside watched in silence. They knew what was coming, and it was going to be a fight they would never forget. The big, mean man stood tall, looking down at the boy on the ground. He was not scared at all. His face was calm, like he had done this 100 times before. This is what happens when you forget who's in charge, he said, his voice cold. A crowd had gathered, watching from a safe distance. No one stepped in to help. People stood far away, afraid to get too close. Shopkeepers, customers, an old man sitting on a stool, and a delivery boy on his scooter all watched. Some had their phones out, recording, but no one moved. They had seen this man hurt others before. He had broken noses, bruised faces, and crushed anyone who stood up to him. No one helped then and no one helped now. Across the street, a man named Jason Statham finally moved. He had been leaning against a wall, watching as if deciding what to do. Slowly he walked across the street, each step careful and steady. His eyes were locked on the boy lying on the ground. The pain on the boy's face hit Jason hard, like a punch to the chest. The boy wasn't just hurt. He had been humiliated, beaten, and left helpless. The big thug turned to Jason and smirked. What's this? Back up. He scoffed. Get lost, Grandpa. Jason didn't answer. He knelt beside the boy, his movements slow and gentle. He lifted the boy's head with one hand and held his injured arm with the other. The boy winced in pain but didn't pull away. Jason looked into his eyes and spoke softly. You're okay. You stood your ground. The boy nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks, his face red with pain and shame. Then Jason stood up. He took 2 steps forward and stopped, facing the thug. He showed no emotion, no fear. Without a word, he took off his jacket and let it drop to the ground. The street grew silent. The thug chuckled. Oh, you want to fight me? Are you serious? He looked Jason up and down. You look like some tired old man coming home from work. What's that? He pointed to Jason's hoodie on the ground. Gonna fold that neatly after I knock you down? The crowd chuckled nervously. No one was sure if they were about to see a quick defeat or something else entirely. The thug leaned in, his voice low and threatening. Listen, old man. This is real life. People like you get hurt for stepping in where they don't belong. Jason didn't blink. The thug smirked again. Let me guess, you've seen a few action movies, thrown a couple of kicks in the mirror, and now you think you're tough? He stepped even closer, nose almost touching Jason's. I'm a black belt. I've beaten real fighters. You're just another fool looking to get famous on a viral video. Jason still said nothing. He just stood there thinking, planning. A few more seconds passed. The thug grew impatient and stepped back, throwing his arms out. Well, what now? Jason's body shifted slightly. He planted his feet, squared his shoulders, and stood straight. His arms hung loose, but his hands were ready. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. It was serious. The crowd could feel it. Jason didn't need to talk. He didn't need to act tough. Every person watching could tell he was a real fighter. Not a show-off. Not a bully. A professional. The thug's smile twitched. Jason slowly rotated his wrists, stretching them, getting ready, still silent. Now even more people were watching. Phones were up. Shopkeepers held their breath. Children peeked out from behind their parents. This wasn't just about the boy anymore. This was something bigger. People started whispering. That's not just some guy. Look at his stance. I've seen that face before. The thug started pacing, bouncing on his feet, trying to stay in control. You're not moving. Are you scared? Fine, I'll move for you. He suddenly rushed forward, throwing a punch aimed at Jason's nose. He was fast, but Jason was ready. He moved just enough for the punch to miss. At the same time, he lifted his hand, guiding the thug's arm past him, using the thug's own speed against him. The thug stumbled slightly but caught himself. He growled, "So, you do know how to move. Good." He attacked again, throwing 2 fast jabs and a right hook. Jason ducked under the hook and stepped aside. Still, he didn't punch back. He was watching, learning, waiting. The thug grew frustrated. "Hit me back, coward." Jason stayed calm. The thug's breathing changed, shorter, faster. His grin was gone. His crowd wasn't laughing anymore. They were watching him struggle. He attacked again, harder. He kicked straight at Jason's ribs. Jason turned and blocked it with his arm, barely moving. Then, finally, Jason struck. One sharp elbow to the thug's chest. It wasn't wild. It wasn't loud. But it was real. The thug staggered back, shocked more than hurt. Then he roared, "You're dead." He rushed forward, fists flying. His punches were tight, fast, and practiced. He threw a left jab, a right cross, and a low kick, all quick and sharp. Jason blocked the first few, but the thug was faster than expected. A hard hook punched Jason in the jaw, snapping his head back. Blood dripped from the corner of his lip. Before Jason could reset, a front kick slammed into his stomach, pushing him back. He stumbled 2 steps toward some crates stacked against a shop. The thug grinned. He could feel the fight turning in his favor. He stepped forward, raising his fist high. Jason had to block, but the moment he did, the thug slammed his knee into Jason's leg. Jason grunted, his stance wobbling for a second. The crowd gasped. "You're not built for this," the thug sneered, circling Jason like a wolf. "You came to play the hero, but this isn't a movie." He spun, throwing a powerful backhand toward Jason's head. Jason tried to duck but was too slow. The punch clipped him, making him stumble into a lamp post. He shook it off, resetting his stance. The thug saw his chance. He attacked again. Jabs to the chest. A high kick toward Jason's head. A low sweep aiming to knock him down. But Jason wasn't done yet. He steadied himself, wiping the blood from his lip. The thug charged in once more, throwing another heavy punch, but this time Jason moved differently. He stepped inside the attack, dodging just enough to avoid the hit. Then, in one smooth motion, he grabbed the thug's wrist and twisted it, forcing him off balance. The thug gasped, caught off guard. Jason didn't let go. He spun the thug around, locking his arm behind his back and pushing him forward. The thug struggled, trying to break free, but Jason was stronger than he looked. With one swift movement, Jason swept the thug's legs out from under him, slamming him hard onto the pavement. The crowd gasped again. Now Jason finally spoke. "You talk too much." The thug groaned, coughing, trying to get up. Jason led him, stepping back. "Go home," Jason said quietly, "before you really get hurt." The thug hesitated, looking around. The crowd wasn't on his side anymore. People were whispering, watching Jason with a mix of fear and respect. Finally, the thug cursed under his breath and stumbled away, defeated. The crowd slowly started clapping, cheering quietly. The boy on the ground looked up at Jason, eyes wide with amazement. Jason just nodded and turned away, walking off as if nothing had happened. The fight was over. But the story of what happened that day would be told for a long time. Jason jumped back, but not far enough. The bad guy's leg hit Jason's ankle, and for a second, Jason dropped to one knee. The crowd was getting louder. Jason looked up, breathing hard, his face bruised. The bad guy cracked his neck and smirked. "Stay down, man, before you get embarrassed." Jason wiped the blood from his mouth. He didn't say a word. Slowly, he stood back up, planting his feet firmly. The bad guy's face got serious. He stepped forward again, throwing his punches faster and harder. Jason blocked most of them, but some still hit. A strong punch slammed into his cheek. A knee hit his ribs. His body jerked from the force, but he stayed on his feet. He was hurting, but his eyes never looked away. He was watching, waiting. Jason took a step back, his chest rising and falling as he breathed harder. His ribs hurt. His jaw hurt. His leg hurt. The bad guy came at him again, throwing another punch. But this time Jason was ready. He dodged just in time and hit back, fast and sharp. His fist slammed into the bad guy's side, right under the ribs. The bad guy grunted, surprised. But Jason didn't stop. He stepped in close, too close for the bad guy to punch properly. Jason's elbow smashed into the man's shoulder. Then again into his chest. He shifted his weight, spun, and drove his palm up under the bad guy's chin. The man's head snapped back. Jason grabbed his jacket and pulled him toward a metal post. With a twist of his hips, Jason slammed the man's back against the steel. The bad guy growled and swung wildly. Jason ducked, dodged the punch, and shoved him into a stack of milk crates. The crates crashed to the ground. The crowd roared. Some backed up, others took out their phones. The bad guy scrambled up, his clothes dirty, breathing heavy, his face twisted in anger. Jason stepped forward, not fast, not aggressive, just steady. The bad guy lunged again, trying to kick. But Jason caught his leg in midair. Before the bad guy could do anything, Jason swept his other leg out from under him. The man hit the pavement hard, his breath knocked out of him. For a second, Jason stood over him. Their eyes met. For the first time, the bad guy looked afraid. He rolled to the side, grabbed a metal pipe, and swung at Jason. Desperate. Wild. But Jason stepped aside, ducked under the swing, and drove his knee hard into the man's stomach. He grabbed the pipe, twisted it from the bad guy's hand, and threw it away without even looking. Jason's moves were sharp now, every hit landing where he wanted. The bad guy, who was once strong, now looked slow and weak. Jason was just getting started. The bad guy backed up, sweating. The crowd, who once watched in fear, now looked hopeful. He wiped the blood from his mouth. "You think this proves something?" he shouted, his voice shaky. "You just got lucky." But his eyes told the truth, he was scared. He lunged again, swinging his fists wildly. But Jason barely had to move to dodge them. The bad guy was desperate, throwing everything he had, hoping something would hit. Jason blocked a weak kick and quickly hit back. A punch to the gut, then an elbow to the shoulder. The bad guy winced, stumbling to the side. He grabbed a fruit cart to steady himself but slipped on an apple, nearly falling. The crowd laughed. The bad guy looked around, realizing what had changed. The people weren't scared of him anymore. They were rooting for Jason. He panicked, grabbing a broom from an alley. He swung it like a bat, screaming in frustration. Jason caught the broom in mid-swing and yanked it forward. The bad guy stumbled again and crashed into a trash bin. He groaned, rolling to his knees. Jason stepped toward him, calm and steady. The bad guy struggled to his feet. He tried to punch Jason again and again, but the punches were weak and messy. One barely touched Jason's jaw, but the rest missed completely. His footwork was gone. His control was gone. And he knew it. Jason dodged the last swing, grabbed the bad guy's arm, twisted it, and shoved him back into the street. The bad guy didn't fight back this time. He just stood there, breathing hard, sweat dripping from his face. His black belt was loose, his body shaking. Jason moved in, steady and certain. In 2 quick steps, he was right in front of him. Then Jason struck. His elbow shot up fast and hard, smashing into the bad guy's jaw with a loud crack. The man's head snapped to the side. Blood and spit flew from his mouth. His legs gave out and he dropped to one knee. Jason grabbed him by the back of his shirt. No hesitation. No mercy. With one powerful twist, Jason threw him across the pavement. The bad guy crashed into a metal gate with a loud clang. The sound echoed through the alley. The crowd gasped. The bad guy slumped against the gate, breathless, ribs hurting, arms limp. Jason walked toward him, step by step, like a shadow moving through the dust. The bad guy lifted his head slowly, his eyes dazed, his lip bleeding. He tried to stand. Jason did not let him. Jason crouched down, looking the bad guy straight in the eyes. "You're done," he said, his voice calm but firm. The bad guy's breathing was rough, his body shaking as he struggled to sit up. The crowd was silent now, waiting to see what Jason would do next. Jason let go of his grip and stepped back. He had already won. There was no need for more. The bad guy groaned, holding his ribs, barely able to move. The people watching began whispering, some even clapping. Jason turned away, walking toward the exit of the alley. His job was done. As Jason stepped out onto the main street, he took a deep breath. The night air was cool against his bruised skin. He knew this fight would be talked about for a long time. But to him, it was just another day, another battle won. Behind him, the bad guy was still on the ground, defeated, his face full of regret. The crowd slowly started to leave, some shaking their heads, others still watching Jason as he disappeared into the night. Jason didn't look back. He didn't have to. He stepped forward and, with perfect aim, delivered the final hit, a strong, spinning kick right to the bad man's chest. The kick landed with a loud thud, shaking the ground. The bad man flew backward and hit the ground hard, his arms and legs spread out. He didn't move. Everything went quiet. People stopped recording on their phones. No one whispered. No one clapped. Everyone was too shocked to speak. Jason stood still, breathing heavily, his eyes on the man he had just defeated. The black belt the bad man wore was broken. Justice had been served. For a moment, the whole street seemed frozen. No one moved. No one made a sound. The bad man lay on the ground, barely breathing. Behind him, the metal gate he crashed into still shook from the impact. The sound of the fight still hung in the air. People who had been scared now just stared. They couldn't believe what they had seen. It wasn't just that the bad man lost, it was how Jason defeated him. With skill. With control. With power. Then whispers began. "Did you see that?" someone murmured. He didn't even say a word. "Who is that guy?" A man lowered his phone, still recording. "That was the cleanest fight I've ever seen." But no one cheered. No one clapped. This wasn't a moment for celebration. It was something bigger, something people would never forget. Jason stood there for a few more seconds looking at the bad man. Then, without making a big deal about it, he turned around. The young boy Jason had saved was still sitting on the sidewalk, holding his broken arm. His face was pale from pain, but his eyes stayed wide, watching Jason. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Jason crouched next to him. "Let's get you out of here." A man who had watched everything from his rickshaw quickly got out and opened the door. Jason carefully helped the injured boy stand up, putting one arm around his shoulders to support him. The crowd stepped back, making way for them with respect. Jason helped the boy into the seat, making sure he was comfortable. "Take him to the nearest clinic," he told the driver. The man nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Right away." The boy's voice was shaky. "Thank you for everything." Jason gave a small nod, then closed the door and tapped the roof. The engine started and the rickshaw drove away. The street seemed to let out a breath. Slowly, people stepped forward. A shopkeeper removed his hat. "We've been waiting for someone like you for a long time." An old woman touched her chest. "You did what no one else dared." Jason didn't say anything. A teenager held up his phone. "Sir, that was... Can I just ask, who are you?" Jason's eyes flicked toward him. The boy lowered his phone. That was enough to answer enough. All around, people showed their gratitude in small ways. A nod. A quiet thank you. Hands pressed together in respect. The fear that had controlled the street for so long was finally broken. And the man who made it happen didn't even stay to enjoy the moment. Jason turned and walked back to where his jacket lay in the dust. He picked it up, shook off the dirt, and slipped it on. Then, without a word, he walked away. No victory pose. No speech. No need. The bad man was still lying on the ground, broken and defeated. The crowd still watched Jason as he disappeared down the street, his shadow blending into the sunlight. Justice had come and gone. The world is full of strong men who use their power to scare people, to take what they want, and to make others feel small. They don't win because they're better, they win because people are too scared to fight back. But real strength isn't loud. It doesn't hurt the weak, it protects them. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't wait for help. It just does what is right. That day, Jason didn't just beat a fighter. He broke the fear that had kept the street in chains. And he did it not by shouting, not by showing off, but by acting calmly, bravely. Because real justice doesn't need permission. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge. It walks in silence and strikes when no one else dares. If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.